being on the mission field, oftentimes we want to see the fruit. We see a vision for something, what can be, and we go out and we pioneer. But sometimes we don't see the fruit we want to see because we stop being faithful in what God called us to do. In 2017, 5 years ago, God called me to call a city together in prayer. I did that for a whole year, and we never had more than 10 people gather inside a church building where it was warm, where it was safe, and where it was comfortable to pray for a whole year, 1 hour a week, less than 10 people. But recently I was in my city in St. Louis in one of the roughest, darkest, most challenging neighborhoods. And we went out to pray. We went out to pray through the neighborhoods, 25, 30 plus people there from all sorts of different churches and backgrounds. And we walked the streets and we prayed, but we weren't done yet. There was something else we were going to do. We were going to stand for an hour on a busy street and pray before the Lord. Well, what ended up happening in the natural is the skies opened up and the rain poured down uncontrollably. It poured down on us. We didn't have enough rain jackets or enough umbrellas. But what I saw in the people that were with me is that they didn't say, oh, we're going to quit, we're going to go home because it's raining. We went to that street corner, we went to that busy street, and for an hour we stood out in the rain and the thunder and even some lightning that was close, and we cried out to God and we prayed. And then as I was standing in that moment, I was undone before the Lord, because I remembered 5 years earlier when I couldn't get 10 people in a room to pray in a nice church building once a week where it was comfortable and they could, all the environment was perfect for them to do that and cry out for a city. But I looked up and down next to me, to my right and to my left, as cars went by and the rain was pouring down and we didn't have enough umbrellas and we didn't have enough rain jackets. And I saw a people that were crying out before God. So I saw the fruit next to me of what God had asked me to do. And I just want to encourage you, wherever you are and whatever God has asked you to do, that probably hasn't changed. But my question is, why did you stop doing what he asked you to do? I could have stopped 5 years ago and said, you know what, this isn't working. People aren't coming. People don't want to pray. People don't care about my city. Where are the people, God? I'm just going to give up. But 5 years later, I stood in circumstances in a really violent neighborhood. And in fact, right before in the middle of our prayer, we stopped a dispute between a husband and a wife that were literally getting into a fight and destroying one another's vehicles. But I saw people that were willing to stand in the midst of the darkness, in the midst of the chaos, and be the light, not in a comfortable church space, not in a building where no one could see them, but out on the street. And it's because what God had called me to do, he's faithful and true to make it come to pass. But the question is, will we be faithful to him, faithful to what he said, to continue to step out, continue to be calling out to him, be the light, be the salt, no matter if we see the fruit or not. That day I was blessed to see 25 people in the rain. That isn't always the case, but God is faithful and God is worthy to what he didn't speak something to you for it not to come to pass. But how long will you continue to say yes to him? How long will you continue to plow, whether you see the fruit or not? Because see, he wants us to be faithful. And in our faithfulness, we will see fruitfulness, but it might take longer than you want. So don't give up on what God's called you to do. Continue to believe what God has said for you, for your family, for your city, maybe for a nation, but be faithful day in and day out and watch him. Watch him. The people that were standing next to me on that street corner, I didn't know them 5 years ago, but God was raising up people around me that were standing for the things. They were believing for my city. They were being peace and light in the darkness. They're believing that Jesus' blood speaks a better word over some of the things that have happened, that salvation needs to come to those neighborhoods and those streets and those families. And I found myself, I wasn't alone, because his word is true. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he's asking us to say yes and to follow him and plant the seeds, and then he'll water it and we'll see the increase. So stay faithful where you're at to what God's called you to do, and he'll do exceedingly abundantly more than you could ever ask or imagine.